Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's panel. We are here to discuss a timely and nuanced issue about how AI is changing the way people contribute in open source and what that means for mentorship, trust, evaluation, and the overall community dynamics. And to discuss this topic today, I am joined by 4 brilliant panelists who will discuss pertinent questions about this topic. First, we have Olushola Ogunkelu, who is a tech educator, an open source contributor, and the founder of the Coding Clubhouse, which is an initiative focused on making coding education available to everyone. And we have Harmony, who specializes in projects and product management. He is a product manager at Hara, hosts Chaos Cast, and leads the Chaos Technical Documentation Focus Group. We have Usayo Ojo, who is a program manager and technical writer impactful open source initiatives across Africa. She drives programs that fosters diversity, inclusion, and sustainability in open source communities. And last but not the least, we have Amarachi Aso, who is a product manager focused on creating growth strategy for early stage startups. And until recently, she's been a software engineer and a technical writer. So, we are going to start this panel with the big picture. We all know that AI is becoming a part of our everyday life, from code to documentation and beyond. But we also know that it has changed how we think about efforts, skill, and trust. So I'd like to put this question to our panelists. How has the rise of AI influenced the way you think about contribution in your work?
Okay, I should go first.
Yes.
I would like to see myself as someone who had first fallen into the wrong use of AI. I remember when I started using AI, I had this much reliance on it. And at some point, I realized that my thinking, my own thoughts were not shining through. It was just doing everything. As a result, I had to take some step back and unlearned that habit. I started to learn how to prompt AI rightly to still make my ideas stand out. So this has kind of influenced how I see effort and trust with contributions. I don't think effort and trust is about writing every single word, but I believe it's about your humanity. How is your human insight showing through? How is it coming out? Are you still the one driving the thought, or is AI doing like everything for you? That is how I would view effort.
Hello. For me, my work surrounds around projects, product documentation, and also programs. And generally, I see technology as an enabler, which is why I work with technology. So AI has been an enabler in my work. It has helped me reduce grammatical errors in documents I create. That also facilitates my user stories in complex works. And yes, which is why I support the use of technologies across board, especially for speed, more functionality, and better use cases. Thank you.
So, as an avid user of AI myself in my daily role as a technical writer, the use of AI has really helped me to focus more on the thought process behind whatever it is I'm putting out. So, whether I'm reviewing another person's work or it's my own personal documentation or personal work being done, I always try to ensure that am I still the voice behind this, or have I let AI take over? It's not just about putting out content, it's still about maintaining originality and being able to iterate when you're giving feedback.
I consider AI to be just another technology, like the many technologies we've had in the past that are there to make our work more efficient. For instance, as a project manager, it's giving me capabilities that were not there before. A product manager, rather. For instance, recently I thought of building a better wait list that better captures interest, that truly represents the number of people who consider a solution valuable and are willing to give something in exchange for it. And I was able to build that product, a demo of it, using one of our AI co-pilots. Before the age of AI, I don't think I would have been able to do that. I would have been restricted to having to explain my ideas to stakeholders and hoping they get the picture. But I wasn't restricted to just talking this time. I had a demo to show for it. So AI has really given me capabilities that weren't there before now.
Now, I think one thing you all agree on is that AI has been a big productivity boost for you. But I'd also like to talk about the side effects. Sean, I'd like to come back to you. I know you run an NGO. So I'd like to ask, have you experienced any downsides of using AI tools to support the work you do or the work that others do for you?
I have, and I could talk about a couple, but I'll stick to one. I remember one time we had this task to do, and it was very urgent and important. And we had a meeting, we talked about it, and the task was like assigned to someone to go ahead and do it. Then they took it back and used AI to solve everything. Coming back to put the work on my table, it was like all our ideas were gone. It was something different entirely, and I was there. I was wondering, what do I do in this situation? Am I supposed to return this work and say, hey, do this work but don't use AI? Or if I say that, I use AI myself, so that wouldn't make so much sense. I didn't even know where the correction is going to start from, to be fair. So what did I have to do? I had to take up that work and do it myself all over. And we were at a crunch for time. I had a very busy schedule, and that really kind of ruined the whole thing. So that's one of the side effects. Trying to balance how people you work with use AI and not overuse it. That is a problem.
Busayo, I would like to hear from your perspective as someone who regularly mentors people and you also have to review contributions. Do you have additional thoughts as to the side effects of the usage of AI?
Yeah, something I've consistently noticed while reviewing the work of others in open source is people put out work that they cannot necessarily defend. And when you have someone submit something, okay, you now ask them, okay, can you explain the thought process behind this? Can you explain why you did this? And they're stuck. They do not know because they simply used AI for everything that they put out. So AI now gives people a false sense of skill, right? You look at someone and you think, oh, you're able to do this, when in reality, they have little to no idea about what they're doing. So I think that is one disadvantage I've noticed continuously while reviewing work of other open source contributors.
Thank you for sharing that perspective, Busayo. Harmony, I would like to come back to you. I know you actively maintain and contribute to several open source projects. Do you think communities or programs are overcorrecting in their response to AI generated content?
So I don't think they're overcorrecting. I think, or even overreacting. I think they're trying to find a neutral balance, right? The work we do have some sense of flavor and, some sense of originality. And while these tools from Copilot and a lot of them has helped to facilitate this process across board, right? People are now seeking for balance. And I would also want to state a stat done by Workable, like a survey for over 950 responses, where 70% were actually very, very comfortable because AI has actually made their work better. And this survey was done in the US and UK. If 75% out of 950 people are comfortable, we should be seeking for balance instead of admonishing it completely. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Harmony. Now, I would like to come from another aspect where there are assumptions about people using AI because they use certain phrases or signatures in their work that denotes that this is AI. Busayo, I would like to come to you. What concerns do you have about assumptions based on how something sounds AI generated or looks AI generated?
Okay, so my concern in regards to that is bias, right? Because I myself I've had to deal with something like that where I put out a documentation and when I checked it, it said this documentation is entirely AI generated, when in reality, that was not the case. And I know a lot of us are familiar with this recurring conversation on social media where people keep saying, oh, if you use the M dash, or if you use a semicolon in your documentation, your post, your write-up, people automatically flag that as being AI generated. While for us here in Nigeria, we were taught to use this from primary school, some secondary school. So this now brings a difficulty because some of us have certain writing styles. Some of us have how we like to document things, and there's this constant fear of, okay, if I put this out, would they not think this is AI generated? Now we're losing our originality just to fight against AI generated content.
Thank you for that perspective, Busayo. Now, there's one point or an additional point that I would like to bring out from what you've mentioned. Do you think that this assumption of what could be AI generated content could have an impact on marginalized people who want to contribute to open source?
Yeah, I think it does because we have quite a number of people who might not be native English speakers. So I have mentored for Outreachy in the past, and I've seen some people come in to contribute, and their first language is not English. So some of these people use these AI tools to fine tune their work, to make their work better, to use the correct punctuation. So imagine someone does that, and you're reviewing it, and you, the reviewer, thinks it's strictly AI generated. I think we've already discriminated them just solely based on the fact that they are not English speakers.
Thank you, Busayo. So now the question now is, where is AI helpful and how do we build on that without compromising quality or integrity? How many, I would like to hear your thoughts because I know you regularly have to review people's contributions and documentation.
I actually like the fact that a lot of people are actually making constant moves to ensure that there's balance across board, from communities to projects to organizations down to even government and institutions, right? And I want to draw my point from an AI-specific license called OpenRel, which means Open Responsibility Artificial Intelligence License that's already been used and also integrated by a couple of open communities. OpenRail actually help people use for models like Bloom, right? It also allows the use, except for purpose such as surveillance or discriminatory use. So it doesn't allow you to use, AI to do things that will allow you to discriminate you yourself from another contributor or actually give issues to the work that other people are actually working on. It also helps or it reflects on ethical limitation on how AI input has actually trained open data across board. Licenses like this or also legal stuff like this would not just allow people from marginalized regions contribute more, but it's also going to set a guide for not just open communities, but also organizations that would be able to embrace open practices and licenses like this across board. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmony. Amarachi, I would like to come to you. I know during your introduction you mentioned that you used AI helped you come up with a new product that you're working on. So I would like to ask you, how are you able to balance collaborating with AI in a way that you do not lose your original voice and your thoughts and you still have ownership over the content that you put out, even if it's AI assisted?
Yeah, I think why communities and organizations have a huge role to play in regulating the use of AI. I think individual contributors play the other half of the role, the big part, a big role to play. So we have to regulate how or learn to use AI responsibly. And there are two analogies that I could use to bring that home. So you could either be using AI as an assistant or as a co-worker. As an assistant, you are in that position where you do the strategy thinking, you do the whole thinking behind the work, and then you use AI to bring the work to life. AI does the implementation. While as a co-worker, AI is your thought partner. Imagine collaborating with a co-worker on a project. You both do the thinking. You come to a conclusion together after each one have done their own contribution. So that way, you will know that at the end of the day, the product you have coming out, it's not solely the work of AI. You do not lose your thought. The work does not lose the originality or your thought as an individual at the end of the day. So I think we have to, the summary there is that we need to learn to use AI responsibly in a way that it does not take away our voices as individual contributors.
Those are valid points, Amarachi. Busayo, I would like to come to you. You've mentioned that you were an outreachy mentor and you generally mentor in open source contributions. So my question is, with AI assistance, how prevalent it is, how do you evaluate contributions to make sure that this person is bringing their own skills to the table and their own capabilities to the table as well, even if it is AI assisted? How do you balance that?
Okay, so for me, meaningful contribution simply means ownership. Can you take ownership of what you've put out? If you're called to explain this submission that you've made, can you do it? If you're given feedback, can you implement the feedback that you've been given? If your answer to all of this is yes, so whether you used AI or not doesn't really matter to me. My own is, let me talk to you, you understand, so that as maintainers or mentors or people that review other tasks, we don't have to expend hours now going over the same thing over and over again. Or sometimes this might even lead to disqualification for certain people, right? AI is here to stay. We're all going to have to use AI. But as Amarachi mentioned, we should use it responsibly. Don't let it take away your voice. Still have ownership of whatever it is you're putting out. So when anyone calls you, you can immediately say, oh, yes, I did this. I wrote this. It's still my idea. I fine tuned it with AI.
Appreciate that perspective, Busayo. I would like to know if anyone has any additional comments to contribute.
So there's something I want to buttress on, right? Technology has come to stay. It has been here even before our fathers. It just hasn't been in the internet. And we should not be hesitant on these technologies, especially the emerging ones. We should also be aware that regulation actually starts from advocacy. You teaching your neighbor, you teaching the children growing within your neighborhood how to use these things. From the mobile applications that you use, there are algorithms that helps you detect the best products to buy or the things you're talking on in your conversation, right? Advocacy is something that we should all be part of, right? And that's a step to regulation, and that's a step to finding a balance across board. And you and me and everyone in this room and outside this room needs to get involved and not be hesitant. We need to be part of this innovation. We need to be part of this evolution across board. Because for us to grow as a continent and for the world to grow from where it is, from point A to point B, we be being a better place, we all have to be involved in the process. Thank you.
Amarachi has an additional thought.
Yeah, I just realized that in your previous question, I did not give a personal example. When I talked about having to build a wait list workflow with using AI, it took me like 3 to 4 hours. It wasn't prompting AI that took me 3 to 4 hours. The most part of the work was done before prompting AI to actually build the product for me. So in that case, I had used AI as an assistant. So I did the thinking myself. I wrote out the workflow I wanted the AI to follow before I went in to ask AI to, okay, do this for me. So this is just one example of one way we can use AI while making sure that AI does not take all the credit for the work we've done at the end of the day.
All right. I'd like us to move on to another question. We've all agreed that AI isn't going anywhere. So now the question becomes, how do we set clear and fair expectations for its use in open source? I would like to hear from all of you.
Okay. I would say most times when the conversations on AI comes up, we often talk about what not to do with AI. We don't see conversations regularly about what to do with AI. And I think documentation and education is like a powerful tool that can help people to know exactly what to do with AI. Speaking about organizations creating workshops to help their teams or their users, their contributors to know what to do with AI exactly. We are talking about things like prompt engineering. How do you prompt AI to work for you, not to do all your work? We are talking about seeing AI as something like Google, Reddit, Stack Overflow. How do you usually use them when you are stuck and you need an answer? When we do workshops like this, it kind of gives perspective to the good use of AI. I would give an example. Imagine you want to work on an article or documentation. How would you use AI in this point, or what would a good workshop look like? We are looking at a workshop that explains, oh, as opposed to going there and saying, write out this article for me, you could think of what exactly does the concept of this article look like? Where am I stuck? What outlines do I need for this article? And when you ask AI questions like that, it gives you direction. So you know what to do with your own thoughts and you're able to put them down. This leads me to this one liner I have written down. I would like to read it word for word. Okay, it says something like, clear rules tell you the boundaries, but education show you how to play the game well. So if we tell people what to do with AI, then they have better control of it as opposed to just what not to do with it.
So I would come from the legal aspect, and I would say that license is actually what guides institution. It's actually what guides communities. It's actually what guides organization. And these establishments are actually made of people. So we should advocate for more licenses that would allow people regulate properly. We should advocate for more policies, not just from our government, but also within our communities, that would force people to do the things that they need to do. That will force not just the maintainers reviewing the codes, but also the reviewers of those documents and the newbies that are just coming into those communities to actually write properly and contribute within the jurisdiction of these licenses and where those permissions comes from. Together, we can actually do it better. Thank you.
For me, I would say we need to set realistic standards and guidelines for contributors in our communities. And this is for people that have projects or are maintainers or have their own communities. You can have a code of conduct on the acceptable use of AI in your community. The Linux Foundation has a page entirely dedicated to that on the appropriate use of AI and AI tools. So I think going forward, communities, projects can implement this so that contributors come to your projects and they know, okay, this is acceptable, 70% AI, 50% AI, no AI at all. They already have these expectations in mind before they even start contributing. As we've said multiple times, AI is here to stay. So it's up to us now to define the use of AI we want in our projects, in our communities.
So I think one other issue that needs to be addressed is the issue of personal bias. So even in organizations where the use of AI is acceptable, you find out that certain people who are in positions of authority are too polarized in their idea of using AI. They're either too biased against it or they are too dependent on it. So in organizations where it is okay to use AI, but then you have certain people in position of authority who are too biased against it, you find out that they still keep imposing their bias on others. So in environments like that, it would be nice if maybe open workshops could be held where it helps the members of the organization or company to kind of clear their biases or make it clear that even though we might have our personal biases, we've set a standard that everybody must follow, both contributors and those who review the contributions.
Thank you for sharing your insights. Now, we've discussed how communities or programs or organizations can set fair expectations. But we all know that at the end of the day, the contributor is in charge of using the tool. So I'd like to put this question to any one of you. How do you think contributors or individual contributors can share that responsibility of using AI responsibly?
I would say you self-regulate. You look at your work and you ask yourself, are my ideas shining through? And then I think individuals also have to understand the concept of plagiarism and how all of AI's content are not things you can just pick up and put out there. They have to understand how to cite materials properly to show that it is where they picked them for and that they used AI at some point. So when individuals self-regulate, they look at their content objectively and they're able to pick out, oh, this is where my idea starts and ends. This is where I'm not plagiarizing, I'm not picking anyone's data and just putting it out there. And also they're able to check that I am citing the right sources. Then they can be like a control from an individual end.
Okay. I think we are going to take your word to heart. Thank you very much for sharing that, Shola. Before we conclude, I would like to know if our audience has 1 or 2 questions to ask our panelists about this topic. Very brief questions. Okay, I don't see hands in the audience, so we have one person? Okay, just one question at the back there. They'll give you a mic.
Can you hear me? Good.
Yes.
So I have a question around transparency in terms of when you're doing documentation, how do you explain or like write out how you used AI in the documentation? Is it necessary? Do you have to do it? And then how do you now do it? Yeah, that's the question.
So when we actually make our projects back in university, we make references, right? References is one of the ways to actually account for the things, places, or resources that you actually use. So if I make a document today, I could just put at the footer, and I'll be like, reviewed for grammatical errors by ChatGPT. And that's actually one of the best ways to actually reference the use of AI. And the other way is ownership, just like Busaya has mentioned. Being able to tell the people that are reading this document that I did not just do this alone. It's my idea, it's my stuff, it's my flavor, but AI actually assisted the process. Thank you.
Okay. Amarachi, briefly, please. Oh, one more person? Okay, this is the last question because we're running out of time. Very briefly, please.
Okay, I really enjoyed this session, but my question would be, when it comes to writing, there are some times where you use AI detectors like Turnitin, because I did a research paper recently, and I wrote something by myself, but it flagged it as AI. So the issue is, like, even using Stealth Writer, sometimes you can put like what you wrote in Stealth Writer, and it says, oh, this is 100% AI, this is 80% AI, but you wrote it yourself. So that's the problem here, that how do we curb this issue? Do you have anything to say about that? It might not relate to what you're talking about right now, but it's a problem because now everybody's doubting these apps that were made maybe from AI themselves are doubting our credibility. So that's the question I have.
Okay, I want to say something about that. I think one thing we should realize is AIs are trained on human data. And also, humans are the one who set the standards for AI. And that's what we referred to as bias earlier on. If AIs are trained on human data, definitely AI would have the human flow. And so when humans write, AI could mistake it and think, oh, AI wrote this. And that is where bias comes in. It's about understanding that AIs are trained on human data, and everything cannot be AI just because a human wrote it. And when we start to attack those biases, that's where we talk about workshops, transparency. You kind of put things in perspective, and there will be like a balance in that.
Thank you for your questions, and I'd like to thank our panelists for giving such wonderful insights. And it's very clear from this discussion that this conversation is very nuanced and requires an open conversation with everyone involved, from the maintainer to the reviewers to the individual contributors as well. So thank you again to our panelists, and thank you all for listening to us.
Then let's give a wonderful round of applause to all our panelists. Please.